MAGA 24 Hour Dr. Turley. I recall a few months back, President Trump welcoming King Charles, and after the White House ceremony, him going to Congress speaking against everything that Trump was for. Yesterday, I heard a Canadian Interior Minister openly boast about how she's visiting America to meet the Democrats to oppose Trump's tariff policy against Canada. Is it time we treat our so-called friends as the enemies that they truly are? I think so, and that's exactly what Trump has been doing. Trump isn't kidding around. You know, one of the reasons why so many people have been upset at Trump, so many people in the establishment, is that they keep saying, why are you so kind to the enemies of our world, the dictators, the Kim Jong-uns, the Vladimir Putins, and why are you beating up all of our allies? Well, you're demonstrating it right there. He recognizes a new world is rising, a civilizationalist world, and that our old allies belong to an old world, an old globalist liberal international order that just doesn't exist anymore. And they've all lived high off the cow, as it were. They've lived off of our own ingenuity. I mean, all of Europe's prescription drugs are at such a low. It's all changing now. We're at such a a discrepantly low cost offering, precisely because we were bearing the brunt of all the costs of the R&D. And again, it's the same thing. They spend next to nothing on NATO because we bear the brunt of the vast majority of that expense. And Trump's just said those days are, and that's why he said Canada. Canada's like, you just look, you have 30, 40, 50% of your trade comes from us. 2% of ours comes from our exports go to you. You're totally dependent on us. And yet you turn around and you tariff our goods. You have the gall to do that, to protect your own industry. Just those days are over. We're just not playing those games anymore. And Britain, again, Britain's establishment is one of the worst. Britain's establishment is one of the most politically correct, pathetic pussies on the planet. And it's time that Nigel Farage and Reform UK and Rupert Lowe and was it Renew Britain? They need to take over. We need to make sure that Reform UK is like the new Liberals, right? They're the new Labour or something, and Restore Britain becomes like the new right wing. I mean, we just need a whole new left and right, and we just need to get rid of these idiots that are in power. Canada's going to take a while because Canada, for whatever reason, is just absolutely mired in this left-wing BS. Franz, Dr. Steve, China's Navy is in the Red Sea to allegedly help combat piracy with their history of stealing IP. Can they really be trusted? Interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like the way you're connecting that. No, of course not. They can't be trusted. Of course not. Everything that China does, even Chinese citizens who come here to study or whatever, everything is always for the benefit of the CCP. China is the CCP. That's what you have to get. China, the People's Liberation Army exists in order to protect the CCP, just in the same way the IRGC exists to protect the regime. It's not to protect the homeland. It's not to protect the people. It's not to protect your neighbor. It's to protect them. Okay, so no, there's nothing. But again, China's finding out that so much of its power was dependent on the old, exploiting the loopholes in the old liberal international order, and now with networked multipolarity that Trump has set up, with where you're going through the Western Hemisphere, or the shield of the Americas, as he calls it, through NATO, and then into the Abraham Accords in the Middle East, and the I2U2 that stretches out into India and the South Pacific, and then the Quad, which stretches us all the way out to Australia and Japan. That he is creating a civilizational infrastructure that covers the planet, and it has one purpose, and primarily one purpose only, and that's to box out China. That's pretty powerful stuff. Now, again, Australia, most of its trade comes from China, obviously, and its imports and so on. But regardless, it is a way of minimizing the power that CCP has in exercising via the Belt and Road and so forth, its influence around the world. When a fire starts, The last thing you want to be doing is scrambling for some complicated solution. And that's exactly why I want to tell you about the Sierra Madre Fire Blanket. If you're looking for a simple, practical way to add another layer of protection for your home, your vehicle, and the people you love most, check out the Sierra Madre Fire Blanket today. It's a small thing to keep on hand, but in the moment you need it, it can make all the difference. Click the link below to get yours today. Texas on La Shock. What about with what MTG did earlier this week? Do you think it's because of TDS, or has she really been willing to compromise U.S. security for talking points? I have not caught up with exactly what you're talking about with MTG in terms of what she did this week, but yeah, I mean, everyone's got their own. So, I mean, I can't address specifically what you're talking about. I could just be more general, and that is the MAGA movement is a massive coalition. It's the biggest coalition, right-wing, Republican coalition that we have seen in perhaps ever. Maybe something akin to the Reagan coalition, but the Reagan coalition fell apart pretty quickly under Bush Sr., where this looks like it's a coalition that has some pretty powerful, pretty strong staying power, especially given the fact that most analysts argue as of 2024, November, really it was in many ways Obama's coalition that became MAGA. So we're talking white working class, we're talking Latinos, and we're talking men under the age of 30. Those were all big, huge Obama supporters of white working class, gave them Ohio and Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Latino vote gave them Florida. The under 20 or under 30 male vote gave them everything else. And that all switched over to Trump. And it's a very, very powerful coalition. And what you have right now is you have a number of splinter groups inside that coalition that are trying, that are desperately trying to co-opt the coalition, to make the coalition its own. And they're trying to put their main people as at the head of it. So at the more macro level, it's kind of the little civil war that's going on between supporters of JD and supporters of Marco. I mean, we saw that already with Trump and Ron DeSantis back in 2022 and 2023. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, this is Trump's party, and whoever Trump endorses, they're going to get the nod. They're going to get the nomination. It's going to be JD at this point. It's pretty clear. And Marco will be his running mate. So it's not an either or. But I think with MTG, with Massey, with Tucker, there's just this, they had their own paradigm. Tucker, I think, is actually just looking for an audience in the end, a post-Trump audience. So he's just trying to get ahead of the wave. That's just my sense. I don't know. But what's the can? It's just my opinion. It's just my feelings. Does that just, I don't know. I just feel, and therefore I know. Right. But I just think MTG tried to be the future of MAGA, and Trump kind of shut her down and said it's not going to happen. And she's really pissed at that. And so whatever she does, she's trying to now defect as many people from Republican MAGA and come on over to their supposed third party that they're trying to create. It's going to be a disaster. It always is for them, right? If Elon couldn't start a third party, I assure you they can't. And but that's, I just see her as just being sour grapes when all is said and done. Movie erotic. Trump approval at 33. Should I trust? Who can I trust? No, I wouldn't even remotely trust that. First of all, it's August. In August, you get what's called the polling response bias. So you always get a Democrat response bias. And a Democrat response bias it comes in the summer because Republicans have families. Democrats have largely stopped having kids, where Republicans are having more than ever. And so they end up, doing a lot of things in August. Vacations, they tune out. They just generally tune out of politics, and they get back in after Labor Day. So we saw this in 2024. where all the polls were just absolutely skewed to Kamala. On average, polling is about 4 to 6 points always to the left, just in general, but it gets even worse in the summer. No, all the polls have been disastrous thus far. We saw the polls were off by 20 in Wisconsin. They were off by about 10 or 15 in Michigan. They were way off, about 14 or 15 in Florida. So with Vindman. So no, I wouldn't pay any attention to it. In terms of poll, I love Quantus Insights. They're very, very good. Insider Advantage is very good. You know, what the best thing to do really is just an amalgamation, is just to take polls with a grain of salt in general, but try to corroborate them, try to find different polling outlets with different methodologies and see if you can find ones that are hitting the same spot. Again, I wouldn't waste my time a lot, especially with presidential polling, with NBC or CNN or Fox. Fox is the worst. Fox, I don't even know if they've ever been right. They're so left wing for whatever reason. I don't know why Fox has a left, but they've always have. It's just very, very bizarre. And it came back to bite them in the butt, you know, in 2020, November 3rd, when they called Arizona literally 1 minute after polls closed. I mean, that came and really bit them hard. They lost a lot of audience as a result. So, but for me, it's usually just I like RCP average, the Real Clear Politics average, where it averages out all the polls. Again, there's so much junk in there. So, but that'll give you, at least you can look and see who's polling and how, and then you could start to compare and corroborate numbers and see if you start finding a pattern. But I wouldn't pay attention to any polls right now. All you have to do is look at the amount of money that Trump is raising. I mean, he's hitting $1 billion in terms of his war chest. Look at the Republican voter registration trends. I mean, we're absolutely crushing it. We just got tens of thousands of voter registration advantage in the key state of Pennsylvania. You look at what's just happened in Florida, where Republicans outvoted Democrats like 2-1. I mean, it was insane in terms of the primaries. So you look at other trends. Don't pay attention to the polls, certainly in August.